Joe and I will be sharing the duties today. Everybody can hear me back there?
Yeah. Oh, but I care.
Are you sure? All right.
That's not a big.
Joe's got the mic. He's a little bit of a soft talker, so he's going to be talking on the mic. All right, how many of you heard of the LTE law? Stick those hands up.
10 years.
How many have not heard it? How many not heard the LTE law? Rick, figured you would say that. And how many just think it's just we made it up and it's never going to happen? All right, well, that's not too bad. That's not too bad. The law is real. It passed in 2010. It's there. The law is the law. And as a side note, just to let you know something, and that from 2010 until today, 26 people have died in New Jersey related to tree care. That's 26. Interesting question I want to put forth before we get going. How many of you think of those 26, without knowing any other information, do you think that this law would have helped save their life?
All but 2.
Very possible, all but 2. And that had this law been enacted when it was supposed to, maybe some of those 26 people would be alive. Most recent was a guy who had a chipper accident. We just had a chipper safety course a few weeks ago in Jackson. Had that individual attended, maybe he'd be alive today. So this law has been out there since 2010, and what we're working on is to get the rules adopted. We've been through draft after draft after draft of rules. And it's very close to being adopted. It's been delayed now to somewhere in April, somewhere in April. And I just want to show you what the rules consist of. Joe, you got the law up there, right? The book of the law?
Yeah. They're in the back too, there's extra copies.
Yeah, please make sure that you grab a copy of the law in the back. These are the rules. It's 112 pages of rules. The law is about 14 pages. The rules are over 114 pages. So the law is the law, but the rules tell us how to enforce the law. The act, as it's called. Now what Joe and I are going to do is we're going to go through these slides, and this is not a John Ball presentation, or is it a Mike Reed presentation? So there's going to be no fancy or gory pictures up there. There's going to be words out of the law and the act, encouraging you to ask a question. We want you to ask it as it comes up, not wait for the end. And that's what this slideshow has been designed for. It's to go through it and to prompt you to ask some questions. Is that good? Good? Yeah. All right. As we said, the act goes into effect when the rules are adopted. 2010, 6 years, going on 7 years to get these rules adopted. At your government at work, people. It's torturously slow, the process to doing this. And in the meantime, people are losing their lives. The Forest Stewardship Act moved faster than this. And no one's died from forest management. Maybe logging, but not forest management. What the Act requires is that businesses' registrations in licensed businesses and individuals. And we're going to go through here quickly and tell you what you need to do to meet that compliance. And when you get through, you're going to see it's not that difficult. The business registration, 60 days. When the rules are posted, adopted, 60 days just to follow registration form. Now, a lot of these forms we're going to be talking about, the board has already been working on. And they'll be on the website. Right, Mike? Right. So you'll be able to go there and get the forms that you need. The requirements for business is you must have $1 million of liability insurance for a minimum, and appropriate workman's compensation. And you have to have workman's compensation that's coded for tree work, not lawn cutting or landscaping, for tree care. And specifically, what's that code number, Steve? The code for workman's comp?
0106.
0106. That's the appropriate workman's comp code for tree care. Now, for those communities that have registrations, like Jackson, Old Bridge, you have to register. You have to have that workman's compensation number. And that's confirmed with the insurance company, and that's what the board will do. You have to If they're self-insured people, they just have to give us a letter, documentation, if they're self-insured. And to sign the forms acknowledging the fact that if your insurance expires, you are responsible to notify us, because there are cases where you'll get, a company will get insurance, pay it for a month, and then don't pay. And then it's expired, but they got a policy that expires in 6 months. So those you have to sign a form recognizing that if it's canceled, for whatever reason, we have to be notified about that. And then you pay a registration fee. You have 90 days to register with the board and a comprehensive safety policy. We get a lot of questions on safety policy? Malcolm?
I'm allowed to ask questions as we go through.
Go right ahead. If I don't like it, I'll ignore you.
All right. Here's the code for doing street work. What about ground-based consulting for workers' comp?
That'll apply. A ground-based consulting, if you're not working in trees, you're ground-based consulting, that would be the acceptable workers' comp category for what you do.
Okay, so it wouldn't be 10106?
No,
Okay.
not for ground-based consulting.
Okay, now, in the sole proprietor, I wouldn't even need workers' comp.
That's true. State of New Jersey do not need comp for sole proprietor.
So I'm okay.
Yes, you're fine. Yeah. But if you're ever caught with another guy working on a job, you're in deep trouble.
I don't know.
Okay. They're done. And as far as I know, nobody wants to work with you anyway. Home kidding, of course. Now for these templates, safety policy. This is one of the questions we get. How am I, I'm a small company, how do I have a safety policy? They're out there. OSHA has it. TCIA has it. If you're a member, they have a model safety program for small business. And it's a matter of filling in the blank spaces to comply with the rules. OSHA has it as well. Right, Martin? Does OSHA have the model safety programs? For large and small companies, right?
Yes.
So the templates are out there. Just a matter of filling it in. And the board will also come up with some models as well. For 360 days, you have 4 exam cycles to employ a licensed tree care operator or licensed tree care expert. It's a whole year to do that. And there'll be an application form to apply for that as well. So it's for LTE and LTCO. There'll be probably 4 exams. The exams in July. What's the date for the July exam? 12. All right, so that's going to go on forward until we get the rules adopted. Then there'll be a second exam sometime, but that's yet to be worked out. It could be as many as 4 exams a year for the new testing. Now, for business registration, key components. Another question we get asked an awful lot of is enforcement. Who's going to enforce it? How will we know? Well, part of the act or the rules require that the business have a number, a business number, a TC number. Right, Mike? Is that NJTC? Yes. Thank you. NJTC number, which is similar to your pesticide number. It's got to be located on a vehicle. You'll see it's got to be 3 inches in height on 2 sides, not the top and bottom, on 2 sides, and be contrasting colors. So this is going to be your drive-by verification that the company you see working down the street is licensed. They'll have an NJTC number that will be assigned. You see that on their truck, you know that they are at least registered with the board.
So are we playing the rat game where we're the ones making the phone calls, or is there, or are the township people, when the code enforcers are out doing code enforcement, whether it's building, plumbing, agriculture, whatever, are they going to be looking, or how's that going to work out?
Well, Steve, I don't consider it being a rat game.
Yep.
Just by the term.
No, I got you, but you understand what I'm
Yep,
saying?
I understand exactly. You are the enforcers.
Okay.
You're going to be the eyes and ears of the board. When you go down that road and you see a company that you know is not registered, it's a matter of a phone call to several places. Code enforcement is required to enforce the statutes of the state. So if you call code enforcement of the town, they have to go out and cite the individual for not being registered. Same thing with electricians. Joe, what's that list of licenses that are in the state?
Oh, phenomenal, there's hundreds. You know, we joke around about it. You need a license to cut someone's hair. If you want to shave their neck, you need another license. So this is nothing new. We've often been associated with the electricians and plumbers, but licensing and registration in the state is not something all that easy.
One more question, Garrett. Also, does our new tree care license, does that supersede general, a home improvement license that requires carries for capital improvement on property?
That's a pretty good question. What's currently in effect right now is if you are not a certified tree expert, you need a home improvement contractor's license.
Correct.
But the law from, the letter from the Attorney General of the state of New Jersey states, if you are certified in that field, then you are exempt from the homeowner's contractor's license. And right now, there are people that are using that license to scam people and say, I'm a licensed tree care expert when it's a home improvement license. They're two different things. So the law set up two-tier licensing programs. LTE, which will replace the CTE, and the LTCO for licensed tree care operator. And you're going to see the differences between the two in just a second. The licensed tree care operator is a person who provides tree care expert services in New Jersey, and LTCO is an operator. And the differences are coming up right here. I don't know if you can see that. Oh well, tough. We can't make it any better. Joe, would you please?
All right, so in the red, we've got LTCO services. That's pruning, repairing, brush cutting or removal, tree removal, stump grinding or removal. Those are things that LTEs can also do, but in addition to that, LTEs can also do cabling and bracing, lighting protection, consulting, tree establishment, diagnosis and treatment of problems and disease, tree management during site planning and development, tree assessment and risk management, and the application of pesticides or other forms of tree maintenance.
So that's the difference between the two. Where the LTE can do everything, and the LTCO can only do the red. The only ambiguity that was in there, and is a very difficult one, was tree establishment. Because landscapers are exempt, provided in ground-based landscape work, which includes planting trees. And part of the initial, one of the goals that the board tried to do, and what Steve Chisholm was pushing, was all issues start at the nursery or planting. So you can put, a landscaper comes in, puts a tree, and 20 years later, you're giving it the kiss of death because of girdling roots or planting death. So we wanted to include that. But the landscape industry fought back very hard. They said that is a major component of our members. They plant trees. So we had, in order to get their approval, it was a matter of negotiating and saying, well, if you do ground-based landscaping and you do not climb trees or remove trees over 6 inches, tree planting is something you can do. We wanted it to be under the LTE umbrella, but it wouldn't work. Too much resistance. So tree establishment now should just mean when the tree is in the ground, how you take care of it after it's been planted erroneously by an LTE, by a landscaper. Take that back. No, it's choked right there. All right, are there any questions on this?
I got one.
Go.
Is there any way that the landscape association can be held to a higher standard in terms of proper planting of trees?
We're trying to do that one. Listen, that isn't. How about volcano mulching? Can you stop that? The problem we found with that is you can only reach so many people. When you reach them, you train them. But the people who come in and out of business are those who are doing it wrong. So you got a landscape contractor, volcano mulching. He's got 5 or 6 people that work for him. 2 of them go out and start their own business. So now volcano mulching expands exponentially. It's just hard to get a grip on. And those are the people we wanted to bring in. Planting trees wrong, volcano mulching. I saw a stop sign mulch last week. You can't stop it. And it was 2 feet high.
Gary, before we move on, there's another question that comes up pretty commonly, and that's regarding the application of pesticides. If you have a pesticide license and you're an LTCO, you may apply pesticides with that license without being an LTE. However, if you do so incorrectly and a formal complaint has been made against you, then we can hold you accountable for that.
Yeah, Ben.
What about young tree pruning, like with the planting? What about pruning those newly planted trees or trees that are a couple years in that are still small and consistent?
Well, you're talking about landscapers versus LTEs. As long as they're not off the ground, they can do it. Malcolm, you're gonna, it's 2 questions for you, keep track.
Question, Joe. What you talked about with the pesticide applicators in the LTCO. about landscaping, pesticide applicators, and FDA license?
If anyone's got a pesticide license, they may apply pesticides. We have license.
Now, if they're caught doing something that's illegal with your 3A license, that's jurisdiction.
DEP does. DEP does.
So what? Seems like it's kind of useless that you would have any kind of authority over anybody to pesticide. Like, anybody know landscape?
If someone makes a formal complaint with the board is obligated to follow up on it.
Yep. Is there another question?
So regarding the pesticides, you get a pesticide license, you can apply pesticide or fertilizer without being an LP or an LPCO.
Correct.
If you're an LP, you still need this pesticide license to apply pesticides.
Yeah, you still need a pesticide license regardless. Yeah. Yeah, we tried to avoid redundancy. We did not want to legislate pesticides when the DEP's already doing it.
Right.
So that is kind of on its own. But if you're an LTE and do something wrong with pesticides, you'll be accountable as an LTE. Chuck?
The individual is the licensed tree expert for a company. It said per like location. That individual also needs to be full-time, correct?
Yes. Yeah, it's on staff, full-time. The option of being an LTE for hire no longer exists. So if your guys put bids in on towns and you see a CT that doesn't work there, that just uses license, I can't tell you how many times I've questioned a CTE listing on a bid, call that person up and I said, I didn't authorize my name to be used. And I told that person to stop using my name. It does happen. So it was, to avoid that from happening, it had to be on staff. Mike, if you need to add anything, please still jump in, all right? Okay.
One more question. Move on, and back to the pesticide. So an LPE is the only one that can make consultations and recommendations on treatment, but an LPCO could still make the recommendation for a pesticide.
Yes.
So as far as pesticides are concerned, LPCO can make the same recommendation.
Yeah, pesticides are.
Pesticides, they can make the diagnosis, they can recommend.
Yeah, you're on touchy ground with diagnosing. You know, pesticide applicators, LT tree care operators. If you have a pesticide license to apply pesticide, if you're doing diagnosis and reports, you're now stepped up to the LT level.
Harry, how easy is it gonna be the LTCO?
An LTCO was specifically designed, keeping everybody in mind to be inclusive. One of the things that Steve would tell you is that when we met with the senators, it was, will this legislation put people out of business? And we said, it will, but he said you need to be inclusive. So the LTCO was designed specifically to have the person, a mom and pop operation that's been in business more than 7 years, to say, I want to still to do what I want to do. So that was it, that's in there. So anybody who's been in business 7 years, is in good standing, not a convicted felon, anything like that, can be applied to the board and become an LTCO, continue doing business without an examination.
As some kind of.
Well, you can't. Here's the way it's thinking. The thinking is that those who should not be an LTCO, because of their business practices, are going to weed themselves out. They're going to eventually do something bad enough times where they're going to be removed from that license and no longer allowed to do tree care services. So that's the way it has to be looked at. We just can't, you can't pick and choose people. You just said, you're all coming in and you'll weed yourself out. It had to be done that way. Grandfather, you got to give people an opportunity.
Even doing insurance, it's gonna weed itself out, because they don't wanna get the insurance, they wanna,
Yeah.
they're trying to go on landscape insurance.
Yeah.
So the minute you tell them they can do that, they're gonna stop.
Yeah, the insurance is right, Steve. Insurance will be one thing that'll kick them out of the box.
Big time.
Hey,
Gary, can a lawn care company, with no licensing at all for trees, does the DEP license still come in and spray trees from the Kimsey laws? Completely ignore this law?
as long as they're licensed in that category, then
Yeah,
they're free to do it.
okay.
Nothing, that's number 3.
How many more do I have?
And one more.
Okay, well, yeah.
That's 2 questions. One left.
No, I wasn't quite. With the fence stuff, the old adage, you know, prescription without diagnosis.
Right.
You're gonna allow them to diagnose a consultant.
Yep,
They're breaking cardinal rule, prescription without diagnosis.
absolutely.
So where's, how do you solve
And
that?
that rule applies to those law-abiding people. You're never gonna get anybody, you're never gonna get everybody who flies under the law, under the radar. You just can't do it. There's electricians that'll do your, wire your house for half the price. Plumbers will work on the side. People are always gonna do side stuff. We cannot get everybody, that wasn't the intent. The intent is not to grab everybody, but those people who do those kind of things will eventually get caught.
Well, you have some pretty good, healthcare companies.
Yeah.
You know, they do a good job, and they can't diagnose,
Right?
then they can't prescribe, so.
It's malpractice. Agreed.
So we're not gonna interfere with that problem.
At this point, you can't. All right, moving on. Licensing. There's 3 ways that you can become licensed. One is grandfathering. If you're a CTE, you apply to become an LT. Form on the website, just fill it out. You've got 360 days to do that. If you're in good standing, your dues are up to date, no issues. It's as simple as a form. Examinations. There'll be multiple examinations for levels. There's 2, one for LTCO, LTE, and the LTE law, the LTE examination is similar to the CTE except it adds a component for safety. Was that 20%? You remember what the percentage was of that for safety?
Yes.
Safety and practice.
Safety and practices.
20%.
20% of the exam now will be covering safety and practices, and the safety exam did not cover that before.
Standard.
And standards, yep. So that's the new component of that. So it'll be the exam for LTE and LTCO, 2 different exams. And I know the question that's coming up, but I'll wait for it. I won't pre-answer it. Grandfathering. We just explained that. Exams for LTCO, same thing. Application, letter of reference for LTCO, proof of work history, and you pay the fee. So proof of work history has to be 7 consecutive years. You can't work in tree care for 2 years, sell cars for 3, come back and do tree care again. Now it's got to be consecutive years with good references. The examinations, it's same, pass both the written and the field portion. Again, as you know from taking the CT exam, LTE, you take the letter of reference and you pay the fee, and it's taken in July. LTCO, same thing. Right now, it's going to give twice a year, possibly 4 times a year. We anticipate, once the rules are adopted, to have a lot of people coming in to take the exam. And so we're going to offer 4 times a year, and also possibility of off-site testing.
Computer-based testing, where you can go to a testing center, be located in each of the counties in New Jersey. You can set up to take the written portion of the test right at your schedule.
So that's going to make it easier for you. It should be 21 centers, 1 in each county. You'll be able to go at your leisure, sign up, take a test at your leisure, and they take care of grading and get the results.
Field test involved?
Yeah. You pass the written, and you have to come to the field portion.
For the LTE, not the LTCO.
Right. Good clarification.
Were any recertifications for the CTEs that may be in the works now, where you send in your annual check or your renewal? Are those all going to be in limbo now and not going to be processed? Or should we just wait after the April date and apply for an LTE?
Do everything as it is. If it comes in, sign up and send it in. Don't leave anything to chance. If you do that, it could be something will happen with the state. I mean, I didn't get my CT license till last week, and I paid for it in June. So it takes a lot of time to get going, and I wouldn't want to see it not pay it, expecting this to happen, and something new comes in. So I would, if your registration's up, I would.
You paid for yours last year and just got it?
Yes.
I paid for mine as soon as I got the bill, and I still haven't gotten it. It's been a long time.
It takes time. Call the board office.
It used to.
No, things change now. And having Mike DiRico on board is a great resource for telling us how government is so inefficient and how you just want to kick it in the teeth. That's the way it is. So, but if you don't have it, call Mike, put down the office, he'll check on it for you, okay? Because we do have several of those, right, Mike? A lot of envelopes come back. Addresses change, or something goes on, the post office had a bad day, or whatever it was, but Mike gets a handful back every time he sends out a mail. All right, so we told you about the added domain. The LTCO will have 6 domains, with safety representing another 20%. And computer-based testing in all counts. Reciprocity. Anytime we've had questions when the rules were being promulgated, is that what will constitute reciprocity? What other credential do you hold will transfer over to LTE or LTCO? Big question, comes up a lot, and the answer is this. It's stated that the board will consider every application for reciprocity on a case-by-case basis. So if you are an RCA, submit a request. If you're a BCMA, certified arborist, Maryland tree warden, whatever that's called, or the Massachusetts tree warden, Maryland tree expert, whatever that's called, but you have those, submit, the board will ask you for certain information, submit the application for reciprocity. So if you're not an LCP now, but you are certified somewhere else, licensed somewhere else, submit it to us and the board will review it on a case-by-case basis. Final question for Malcolm.
No, this is an state question.
Okay, well, don't count it.
If we're going to consider Maryland tree expert license for reciprocity, as Maryland reciprocates by saying they'll consider LTE for zero license.
Yes,
I work in 3 states.
they already have.
Okay, so, because I tried to get in contact with them, they never get back to me. They don't like.
How many questions did you ask?
So, if I have a residence in Annapolis, I can supply with some Maryland tree expert and they'll reciprocate by giving me a license.
Yeah, to my understanding is that Maryland will accept an LTE or CTE become their license, whatever, I don't even know what Maryland calls it.
Like a Maryland licensed tree expert.
Yeah, thanks, Matt. So that, they'll recognize that. And what's happening is now, I'm pretty sure that we had applicants that are looking to take our exam, because in Maryland, you have to have a sponsor or work for somebody. It's very difficult to get licensed down there. So they're coming to New Jersey, taking the test, and then applying in Maryland. That's my understanding. Matt, do you know if that's true or not?
That is true.
It is true, Mike? Okay.
We need to make our test easier.
No. No, our philosophy has always been you keep the bar here. You don't lower the bar to get people, you bring the level of the applicants up. And that's what the society does with their meetings. Brings the applicants level up. Because, you know, you don't want to be treated from a doctor with his degree from Taiwan. You want to be treated with someone who went to a good school. You want that. So you want your trees treated by someone who's been through the process the right way, no backdoor applicants. Right? Sound good?
Sounds good.
Okay. I hope it is good. We got solicited feedback from reciprocity. I know that the committee, the board asked various states, came in, they talked to the board to see if some of their certification programs would apply. So we're always looking for more feedback. And based on the rules, formally consider every application that comes in. Yes, wait a minute, you're sitting next to me.
I don't know. Never met.
Besides, if I remember, you lost your hair until last time, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, no, I'm sitting back there, go ahead.
So there's a good likelihood that somebody that's an RCA, BCMA, NTSB, and will specify license would be recognized as reciprocal.
Everything will be examined on a case-by-case basis, and I'm gonna tell you why. The BCMA exam, for those who take it, know what it is. Those who do the CT exam know what it is. We can't compare them side by side. BCMA is highly confidential protected. CT exam is confidential protected. You can't put them side by side and say which one is better or inferior, unless one of us took both exams and then gave an opinion. So we have to get information from BCMAs to look at it and say this was sufficient for that, and that's done on a case-by-case basis because individuals are different. You make a BCMA 5 times over, but yet you're not in good standing with the organization. Or again, you may be a felon, things like that. So case-by-case basis. So RCA, certified architect, BCMA, Maryland, Massachusetts, all those will be considered, but there is absolutely no decision made that they will be accepted at this point. We just don't know.
The board is open to combinations of certifications, though. So I'm not sure if you're touching on that, but
That's what I'm asking.
Yeah.
Combination of RCA,
Yes.
CMA, CTS.
Yes.
That.
Everything will be considered. There is no predisposition on anything right now. We'll look at it from, I think they call it de novo, which is from a fresh point of view.
Who's doing this consider?
Me. And you're off the list. No, I'm just kidding. The board will do it. The committee will do that.
You were supposed to be doing the heckling.
But you're off the list anyway. Okay, 2.
Took my test a lot of years ago.
They're going to be on the website. Yeah. And remember that until the rules are adopted, none of this stuff can go out. We fully anticipate that'll happen in April. Once that happens, there'll be outreach programs. Everybody will get a mailing of some kind or another. We have brochures that we're developing to hand out as well. There'll be brochures that you can use and hand out to farmers on the street that you see, and you can use it as you wish. So those things are going to be developed for you. But everything will be on the website. We're going to make it as easy as possible for the transition period. Okay, moving on. These are the fees, and you don't want to see them. Nah, I'm just kidding. The fees are reasonable. They're very reasonable, and because the board was very conscious of the fact that there's enough membership and fees going out here that the board is not looking to make $1 million here. They only need to make enough money to administer this program. So if you look, business registration, $200, 2 years. Right? Right. Individual license, $50. Written exam is $100. You can see the numbers down there.
So a business needs the individual and the business registration?
Yeah, so you're gonna write $250. And that's for 2 years. I think it's more than reasonable. Would you agree? Should it be higher?
It cuts out some of the hacks, I think it was.
Steve said yes.
No, you're lying.
He's loaded, he's making a lot of money.
No. Put me under this body.
He's obviously loaded. All right, any questions on fees? Can you see them? Too late. All right, CEUs, 32 for 2 years, 16 a year. Every conference you come to, you can apply for that. Shakes and Federation meetings, even safety sessions that you hold at your job place. Send us what you talked about and how long it was. So you're going to be able to get those CEUs very easily. If you participate in a tree climb class, you'll get 32 CEUs in 3 days. That's how intense it is. Trainers get CEUs as well.
You gonna have forms on the website to submit these?
Yes.
When everything's said and done?
For the CEUs, I want to make this clear. I think that's the next one, right? Okay.
Sure. So we're not going to be tracking your CEUs. To do so, we felt as a board would have been very costly for us to do. We have to pass that cost on to you. So we will only be operating in an audit form. So maybe once a year or every 2 years, we might take 10% randomly and say, look, please supply us with your CEUs. That's something that ISA provides really nice form for. It tracks everything. You can't use pesticide credits. So it's going to be a lot cheaper for you if you didn't have to track that for you.
So when you renew every 2 years, you have to submit your CEUs. And you went through a lot of trouble to become a certified tree expert, and a little bit extra trouble to be an LTE. What are the chances of you lying on applications like that for CEUs? Kind of slim to none, right? So you're honorable people. You have a moral and ethical code to abide by. So for us to audit you is very expensive and time consuming. So if we rely on you to send us your CEUs and say you completed those hours at the following courses. And just about anything that's educational and tree related will apply.
I'm asking for a friend.
All right. We got every angle to tell you.
No, he's a friend, he's not here. For older guys, obviously it's not me, that's why I'm asking for a friend. Is there an age where, say, someone 75 who still wants to come to these meetings but isn't actively working, will there be some sort of allowance to, well, they don't need to have 32 CEUs every year, they're not practicing, they just want to still be there?
Yes.
So
It's
just for retired people.
hardship, medical, emergency, medical issues, in people that are, the law does allow for the board to make exceptions for that. So,
I don't want to be sick, but if I want to retire, I'm
Yeah.
lazy.
no.
Not, again, not asking for myself.
We couldn't do it based on age.
Couldn't do it based on.
No, of course not. No, but it's a hardship case. If you're not in the business anymore, and you want to continue, the board can continue your license status.
I mean, there's certain certifications where at a certain point in time, you just kind of honor it.
Cut it off, it's gonna get dark.
Yeah, I don't think we don't have the honorary status, but we do have the ability to waive the requirements for a case.
I'll let my friend know.
Yeah, let him know. And his name is Malcolm. Oh boy, watch out. Let's see, where are we? Boom, look at that. Would you know that was coming up? Case exists for cause of hardship. So for CEUs. Advertising, big one. Big one, spelled out clearly. That if you want to advertise, a business must be registered and in good standing in order to advertise services. And you cannot advertise a service that you're not licensed to perform. And the way it follows what the current rule is about how you list your name, NJTC number, so it's John Doe Tree Experts, and the number that follows. For LTCO, same thing, John Doe LTCO with a number. Or John Doe Licensed Tree Care Expert, Licensed Tree Care Operator with the number. That's the way it has to be in all your advertising. Yellow book, website, business cards. It's to standardize it so that there's no confusion. But the way the pesticide license works, that people can list their home improvement license on there and say licensed contractor, and people get confused. If you stick to that format, then the public will eventually recognize that the way it's worded, it means licensed tree expert.
Has the board ever considered using a symbol like the ISA does?
There is a logo we have,
Okay.
but no, we haven't considered putting that on anything else at this time. Rick, unless you're just yawning.
Is that the pay the game also?
Jane? Yes, it does. Jane Doe, figures. One guy in the crowd. Who else? That's it, moving on. All right, so we're getting to the end here. Standards of practice and ethics. You will be held accountable to the current ANSI, OSHA standards, and most recent industry best management practices. So if there is a violation, go ahead.
You want me to take it?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it would be held to the most recent revision of ANSI or OSHA standards. Period.
So just so you understand, that if there is a complaint, it's going to have to be found if you violated one of these standards. That's the kind of code that the board will follow to see if a violation did exist.
So if a violation exists, what then?
The process is, as of now, what's that? As of now, make the check out, pay it later. The process is right now is that you will be investigated. If there's a formal complaint, whether it's from another contract, doesn't matter, when come in, you'll be contacted, give a chance to give your side, the board investigates and goes from there. If it's just a matter of I don't like them type of thing, you have to figure that out.
Okay, so where is there?
The board.
So we go from there to where?
Oh.
You know, ultimately, okay, so a situation arises, you investigate, you find cause, they're in violation, or they didn't meet the standards of ethics practice. Is there fines, is there
There's-
suspension of
okay.
license?
I know where you're going now.
Et
Yeah.
cetera, you know,
There's
is there consequences?
All of the above. There's penalties and fines, suspensions, revocation.
Okay.
Is all that, depending on the degree of the violation. So you can be fined, suspended for a certain period of time, or have your license revoked completely.
Okay.
And of course, there's an appeal process with that.
You stop work too, Gary.
What's that?
You have stop work orders too.
Oh, yes, and a stop work order, which is important, because once you found the violation, you're ordered to stop right there. Okay, you no longer conduct business till the violation's been satisfied. So it is kind of severe.
Right.
It is kind of severe. It takes money out of your pocket, because if you're restricted from doing work, that's a problem. So it's an incentive to make sure you do the right thing. Constantly.
If you're like a bigger company, and you mentioned before that if you're a bigger company and multiple offices, each office has to have LPE associated with it.
Right.
So if there is a complaint or problem with the one office, is the rest of the company gonna get investigated? Because I assume that there's a primary LTE for the whole company, or is it just where the complaint was?
Whoever the responsible LTE is for that office, that's the person who will be held accountable. So whoever's responsible for that location. Okay? Wait there. Hold on. Do that.
Do you have to have a business to get this license?
No, it's an individual license.
So I can get the license?
Yeah. Sure.
One LTE per office, but can an LTE be the LTE for two separate businesses?
No.
Yeah, it states very clearly, one LTE per office location.
You're working for
And a licensed individual can only work for one company. That's as the LPD of record.
You're exempt on the
No, we're gonna put the Bob Lee amendment in, specifically for Bob. His utility's not exempt anymore. You guys are good. Bob's in trouble.
It's not good.
Gary, is there any provisions to disseminate information regarding revisions to NSD or OSHA that you're gonna hold these folks accountable to? Or is it like the OSHA standards, OSHA says you are responsible for finding out and complying with whatever the regulations are, and that's it?
Well, Martin, we hope that the society will advise their members of any changes that are coming. That's something that we're just found out right now. But right now, the board has not come up with a format for notifying people of those kind of changes, and that's why a lot of regulations are written to the latest standard, so that it's kind of up to the individual to make sure that they're not using an ANSI standard from 2001.
The board is not obligated to do that. However, the nice thing about the registration is that we can very quickly reach out to all registered businesses to alert them to quarantine restrictions, diseases or insect pests, that sort of thing, or any new standard.
Okay.
Will the
Wait a second, hold on. Jason.
Two questions. The first,
Is it for a friend or for you?
no, this is for Universal, for the crowd.
All right.
All right, the first question being, for businesses with multiple locations, more than one location be required to maintain a business license? Because there's two components to the law, as I understand it. There's the business aspect, business license aspect, and then a subpart, business license aspect for location.
Right.
One's blanket license cover the business, so they're gonna get one license number on all the trucks for all the locations.
One registration for the entire business, one licensed individual for each branch location.
Yep, okay.
Then the other question pertains to the most recent standard. Okay, so somebody is caught using an old standard. I mean, will it be slapped on the wrist, they'll type up a little warning?
It really depends. It does. Let's use the one-handed chainsaw. So if you're using one-handed chainsaw and you're violating that standard, and the new standard says you must use two hands, you know, I don't see that as being a suspension. I think that's, if you were caught using one hand, I don't know who caught you, but whoever caught you doing that, is a kind of a notice. Don't follow the standards. The board is not looking to be the tree police, be out there hammering everybody they can. They want to educate people, bring the level of tree service up, and also improving the moral and ethical standards of tree care. So you're kind of going to be on your own on that. If you get caught, you get caught. But I don't see that as being something that's got to be investigated in a suspension. I just don't see it. Are we ignoring Malcolm? Going to Tom?
The New Jersey business registration numbers that everybody has now, whatever that 14-digit number is, if you are not an LTE or a licensed tree care operator and you go to apply for tree business, will you still be able to get a business number if you're technically not going to be, you know, a licensed?
Well, what number are you talking about? Are you talking about the business BRC?
Yeah, the business registration number.
That's
Home improvement, I think it's about home improvement.
The home
no.
improvement.
Again, if you're certified in that field, you're not required to have a home improvement license. You are exempt from that requirement if you're certified in that field of your expertise. And that's a letter directly from the Attorney General of the state of New Jersey.
Right, but some guy who could leave a company, go out and buy a truck and a chipper, could go apply to the state and get that home improvement contractor number.
Yeah. But you still can't do tree work without the NJTC number.
That number should be going by the wayside, no matter what, then.
For you, it will.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. Rick?
I just want to straighten out, Tom. It's called the Home Contractor Improvement Registration Act. It is not a license. It is a registration with the state to do bad work. It can catch up with you. Bad work in construction or whatever you do around the home. It's a registration act. Everybody puts license on their truck. It is not a license by the state to do anything that has to do with anything so that you can be held accountable by the state.
Right?
And my understanding of it is that if you do tree removal, you're required to have that registration because that's the way they categorize tree removal as a home improvement, as sad as that sounds.
The letter that we have states that that's not the case. That if you are certified tree expert in that field, you are exempt from that registration. Yeah, I think, I know I have a copy of it. I keep it.
90% of the companies doing tree work aren't certified tree experts.
That's right.
Probably higher than that.
So,
Wait a minute, let me get to Malcolm.
As of now, for tree experts.
Yes.
Now, licensed tree expert. If the society is going to be somewhat clearing out for information, what's the name of that society going to be? Is it going to be licensed tree expert, licensed tree care operators? Where we can both commingle?
If you can, go right ahead.
The society is a membership. We're not licensed, we're not required. It's not like you became an LTS. You're not forced to join the society. So we're a membership. So we've been discussing that as a membership. What our name will change, but what it's going to be right now, we don't know yet.
Will you accept membership from licensed tree care operators?
Yes.
Okay, well, that's good.
Yes, but we don't know what we're going to change our name to. We won't be called Society of
Yeah,
Certified Tree
name
Experts.
change.
Yeah, we're going to do something, but after everything is, the rules are all promulgated and all that stuff. It'll be this year, we'll be doing something. You'll hear about it.
Wait, hold on.
So I have a part B question regarding the home improvement registration. So there are certain towns and municipalities in the state of New Jersey that require an annual permitting fee in order to conduct business in the town. Does this licensing address that in any way?
Did you hear that question?
No.
Wayne says there are licenses in the state.
Permits.
munis-
permits in certain towns, boroughs, municipalities,
Here's-
you have to pay annually to do work in those.
You have to pay to register.
He said that certain towns have that registration fee. Will this law exempt those towns or companies from having to pay the township registration fee?
I doubt it.
Well,
I doubt it.
Those
Those towns are still gonna want their money.
Yeah, Wayne, the best answer I can give you right now without knowing is that it will not affect that.
Come on, clear.
I'm sure that eventually that
Come on, clear, man.
may come into play, but it's a good point. I'll make a note of that for sure.
Would the board fight against that? I just feel it's punishment for somebody who's trying to do good in their town.
Well, you know, the board's got a lot to do, really got a lot to do, and to try to chase municipalities to get rid of their fees is going to be a tough battle. That may be something that comes out later on, but right now, it's not even on our radar.
Gary, that was going to be part of my question. Some of the municipalities, in order to pull a permit to do the work, they want your contract, your home improvement contractor's number. Are they going to accept the NJ?
I'm going to tell you yes right away from personal experience. Several towns I went to required that on their permit, and when I showed them the letter, it's immediately exempt. So if you are an LTE, you are exempt from supplying or having that, whatever that license is, home improvement registration.
Will the letter be on the website?
It will be, yeah, it can be, absolutely can be. Yeah. Sure, it came from the Attorney General of the State of New Jersey, public record.
That's a certification recognized by the state of New Jersey. At this point, for arborists, the only certification that the state recognizes is the certified tree expert. So certified arborist for BCMA is not recognized by the state.
You're dismissed. There's a door, buddy. All right, let's get ripping. Licensed and registered business shall conform to the canons of professional ethics and standards of conduct. If you're a certified arborist, you know what that means. You've got to sign that form, and you will maintain a moral and ethical standards. And if not, you will be held accountable for that. Compliance versus enforcement. The board's intent is to get you to comply, not to enforce the penalties. So that's why there's a 360-day period. You got a whole year to do certain things. 90 days to register a business, 360 days to get licensed. So that's why it's the time period. But get everybody on board and not look for enforcement. You have, of course, if you fail to meet those periods, you have a hearing process. You have a right to a hearing in the event of a formal complaint. So if there's a complaint, you have a right to, once the board is aware of the complaint, you have a right to come to the board and state your case for that. And the board, I told you, we're creating pamphlets, educational outreach programs, and work with industry to assist in compliance. So there will be outreach efforts. But I do recommend that you do not keep your head in the sand and wait for somebody to come and knock on your door and say, fill this form out. I suggest that you stay in touch with the organization. Become a member of the society if you're not. Stay on the website and watch for the information. Because we can't reach everybody, nor can we. We just can't reach everybody. So the outreach programs may be radio, it may be magazine ads, it may be a blast on 101.5. Don't know yet. But if you take any paper that comes in the mail and stick it on the bottom of the pile, it's going to be there until you realize that your license expired. Yeah, Tom.
Gary, the canopy will probably be a good avenue for another link for that.
Absolutely. That's absolutely. A member of the NJAISA, which is here today, look at the canopy, look at the website, and stay informed. This is getting down to the wire. You're looking at April for the rules to be adopted. If that does occur, it's going to happen very quickly. And then the clock starts ticking. And certainly the phone numbers, you can call the office down in Jackson and leave a message. If you want some specific information, email. Stay in touch. Rick.
Yeah, question for Joe, because I'm tired of hearing Gary talk.
Okay, any other questions?
Thank you very much, Joe. Appreciate your time.
You're welcome.
What is or what are the avenues that you reach these that are not anywhere near any of this stuff? And I don't want to call them names, so how are the other people getting to know this? If we have all these resources to keep us involved, how are we gonna get to the people that don't
You.
know the job?
You.
Okay?
You see the guy down the street and you know who they are.
Okay.
Every one of you knows somebody in your area. All you gotta do is put a pamphlet in your windshield, put it in your mailbox, send them a mail, send them something, or just notify the board.
Truck a chainsaw on the ladder.
That's it.
Gary, I think he said he's sick of hearing you.
Thank you, everybody, good work for it.
So we've also been working on pamphlets, actually a beautiful one that Gary made. We'll be mailing them out when we're going to be looking through the phone book, on the internet, just trying to find anyone that's doing any kind of tree work. We're going to try to hit them with mailings and whatever we can to try to capture as many as we can. Also maybe pamphlets in chainsaw shops, that sort of thing. Maybe rental equipment places where some of the fly-by-night people might be. So.
Yeah, at one time the board, and Dave Johnson, God bless him, went to the yellow book, went to the yellow pages, came out with, not 25, it was, how many, it was 21 counties, it was like 40 yellow, there was 40 different yellow books for the whole state of New Jersey. Like for instance, overage. To advertise and get everybody over, I needed to be in 3 books. That's why I'm glad the yellow books are kind of gone. But Dave took on the huge task of collecting every tree service that advertised in the yellow pages. By the time he collected the data and got it together and put it in a database, 20% of them were no longer in business. So trying to track tree companies that start and go is a daunting task. And that's where you come in. And eventually, it will take years, but eventually, everybody will be on board and on the same playing field. It's just a matter of time. And I know that there's people have come up to me over the years and said, when is this happening? I'm getting sick of waiting for this. This is going on and on and on. And I'm tired of answering the question. Tree care gets worse. People come in, you see them spiking and topping trees, and it drives you nuts. Can we do something about it? Well, we're very close. We're very close, and I'm encouraging you, don't turn your backs on this. This has been a long time coming. What year did you start this?
2002.
2002.
A long time.
A long time, and you have no idea how much time and energy and money that was spent to get this law passed. 2010, it got signed by the acting governor because the other governor was gone. It signed at the last day. 7 years to get these rules going. The light's right there. We just need to keep the push and the pressure on. Don't give up. And I know a couple of you raised your hand and said, "What?" When I asked you if this was made up and it's never going to happen, it is. It's happening. And I think the last slide. Oh, exemptions. Oh yeah, this is next to the last slide. Public utilities, they're exempt, but if you work for a utility company, you're exempt under the law. However, if you decide to do weekend work, you're now covered under the law. So no matter who you work for under the exemption, if you're doing it on the side, you are no longer covered, you're no longer exempt. So that's any employer. Public utilities and their employees and contractors with utilities. No, you don't. You like it.
Well, two, I reached out to solar panel companies. And they're doing their own trees. You know, they say we're exempt with utilities. Sorry, can't use that one. True or true?
No, it's not true. Because, solar industry is not even recognized by the Forest Service as being an exempt farm activity. It's not. Bioenergy.
Cut the tops off of the tree.
So they're not covered. But under site plans and subdivisions, they would be. So if they're clearing trees for mass housing, they're exempt because they have site plan approval from the town.
And it's public utilities too. So not solar.
Right.
Right, Joe.
They say because they're producing energy, they're part of the utility.
Right.
Nope. Forestry activity covered under a forestry management or stewardship plan. That is exempt as well. Ground-based landscape construction activity involving trees under 6 inches in caliber. Site plan or subdivision clearing, and any government employee while engaged in the performance of their duties as an employee. So that means municipal shade tree commissions are exempt.
And this is just a summary, too. There's more details available in the law and the rules, especially concerning ground-based landscapes for the units.
Ground-based landscape construction activities, 6-inch power. We're talking about moving trees.
We're talking about removing.
So, something like East Coast landscape, you put in a 14-inch tree. That's, they're just landscape. Right.
We're talking about caliber, not deviation.
Correct, caliber. One more thing, hold on.
No, yes, yes.
Let me end this up, Jason, 1 second.
No, that's DBE.
DBH?
Yes.
All right, that's a mistake. 6-inch DBH, not caliber. Thank you for that correction.
They concentrated on that so much that they missed this part.
Okay.
That they're exempt as long as they abide by the American National Standards Institute practice standards and also federal ocean safety and health guidelines.
Okay.
So they're exempt as long as they're doing the things we're supposed to do.
I think answered your question.
Heard live correctly.
That will be helpful. Last question, Jason.
For those that are conducting forensic investigations,
Consultant.
that consulting, so that's required.
This is the contact information of the board. You've got the website, you got emails, you got the phone and fax. Mike DiRico, program manager. These are board members, just in case you're interested in who sits on the board. And DP representative, retired, so we have a new one somewhere, I don't know what's happening. And then the currently vacant position. Pam Zipsy has been nominated to sit on the board. Again, this is a torturous process. Submitting paperwork to the governor's office. Pam has to give up her firstborn and submit all kinds of documentation. So it's been at least 2 or 3 months, more than that, before the process. So Pam is nominated to sit on the board in a vacant position, vacated by the untimely death of Dave Johnson, who is sorely missed. He was flying on the board. All right, any questions? This is it. We're done? What do you think?
Good job.
Safe? And? Control. Thank you.
They used to hand out.
All my final questions are going to Mr. Hartel and Matt Simon. Say yes, Matt.
That's what the governor's
Can I ask you a question? Is there anything that's being done to notify all of the municipalities about it?
We're going to send them off to the organization. We're going to send the municipalities so they're code enforcement.
Okay. I was even thinking, if there's any sort of like press release or anything that we could put on our website, so that if people go to our website, they, as a consumer, they kind of have to know what's going on. So we can get all that kind of information from the website.
We're going to put them all the website.
Okay.
The chapter, the board,
Yeah.
societies, Safety Federation,
Yep.
CAA,
All right,
all the
perfect.
websites we're going to have.
Good.
Plus, I'm going to try to